Good morning and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Sue Perez. Does it seem like more and more senior citizens are being taken advantage of? Well, if it does, it's because it's true. On today's show, we're going to discuss, along with Lynn Edgington, who's an expert on this, senior scams and medical identity theft. And just let's welcome him now. Lynn, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're big time in this subject matter, so we're glad to have you here.
Well, thank you.
Tell us about yourself and about Eagle Research.
Well, I've had over 20 years experience in corporate world in insurance, banking, finance, as well as mortgage industry. I've also had 20 years experience as a business consultant. And in that capacity, I wrote business marketing and strategic plans. I helped with expansion capital. So I've had an extensive background in the areas of financial crime and what would constitute financial crime. About 2004, I had a dear friend who contacted me, and he was a pastor of a church. And he had about half of his congregation in something, and he wasn't real comfortable about it. He knew about my background, and of course, we were friends. And he asked me if I'd look into it. And so in 2004, I became aware of what was going on the internet called cybercrime, and especially in the areas of investment fraud. And for the next 3 years, I did a lot of research and a lot of investigative work about what was going on the internet. And I really, truly was kind of a hobby in the beginning, but it turned around that it started to become more and more something that I found that I was being called to do. And I literally tried to walk away from this about three times, and God just kept calling me back. And finally I said, okay, I got the message. So I formed Eagle Research Associates. And the thing that makes Eagle Research unique is the fact that there's a lot of companies out there that are nonprofits that educate the people about investment fraud. Well, we do the same thing, but we do one thing that they don't do. We actually work for federal law enforcement agencies to get the information they need in order for them to go ahead and conduct their own investigations and actually arrest and put these people and convict them and put them behind bars.
So you're the link there.
We're the link. And the reason that was important for us to do that is that back in 2006, it was announced that the FBI had moved 1,800 other white-collar agents that were investigating white-collar crime, and they moved over to Homeland Security. They didn't replace any. So we knew that law enforcement was adequately understaffed at that particular point in investigating cyber crime. So we felt there was a niche for us to step in and be that resource that we could go to them, and we have been working with them since 2008 when Eagle Research was formed.
That's interesting. Well, you found it, and you found it just in time. I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, it's amazing how God works.
Okay, so what are the most common scams that are against seniors?
Well, the most common scams are running against seniors right now they fall in three categories. One of them you get in your email, and this is called bank phishing fraud. And basically what happens is you get an email and it tells you it's from your bank, and at least they make you think it's from your bank. And they tell you there's been a security breach, there's been suspicious activity in your account. They always make it ominous that you need to take action immediately. And usually what they'll do is they'll provide you a link inside that email that they want you to click on so you can go immediately and take care of this pressing, urgent matter.
I have to interject. Those don't come to just seniors, because I got one of those.
Oh, absolutely.
I got 2 or 3 of those.
But they specifically target seniors.
Yeah.
But the thing, everybody gets them.
Yeah.
And the thing that's really scary about these emails is this. If you click on that link, you will swear that you are at your online banking portal. It looks exactly like you would if you went to your online banking when you go to sign in and register. And of course, what they're wanting to do is get your username.
Well, let me ask
and
this
their identity.
question, because I want our viewers to follow it as we go. I bank with ABC Bank.
Okay.
How do they know to send me an email from ABC Bank?
They don't. What they do is they'll they'll pick ABC Bank and probably send 3 million, 4 million of those emails out. They're only looking for the people that bank with ABC Bank.
Okay.
If you're not a member of ABC Bank, you'll just delete the email and forget it. But if you are a member of ABC Bank, it's going to scare you to think it's your bank contacting you.
So it's a chance thing they're doing.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And the next one they'll do a different bank. They probably will send out 30 to 40 of those using different bank names, because they know there's a certain percentage they're actually going to hit that has the bank with that bank. So you click on that link and you go in and you see where you're supposed to put your username and your password, and you put it in. Well, the moment you do that, they're going on to your real online banking, because they know the bank where you do online banking, and they put your username in and your password, and voila, they're into your bank. Now, while you're on the internet with them thinking you're at your online bank, you're not. They go in and the first thing they do is they change your email address. Why? Because when you do online banking, you'll get a confirmation that you did something online. So they don't want that email coming back to you, that they were there and you didn't know it. And the second thing they do is they change your password. So when you actually get off of the online banking experience with them, when you go to try to log into your real online banking, you can't get in. And so then you have to contact customer service, and they then tell you, well, no, you went in on such and such a date and time, and you changed your email address, and you also changed your password. And then you find out, voila, you've been scammed. And what they've done is basically emptied out your bank account. And if you have your credit card attached to that online banking, now they have access to it as well. The thing that you should know is this. If you get one of these emails, if it's really from your bank, they're never going to put a link to the email inside the email to your online banking. You already know what your online banking URL is. So, and they're going to tell you, you need to contact customer service. They're not going to ask you to do anything online from the standpoint of in an email, other than contact customer service. If you're on a Mac, if you put your cursor over that URL, the URL will pop up and it'll show you what the real URL is. And I guarantee you, your bank name will never show up in that www dot. Your bank name is supposed to be there. It'll always be a bunch of symbols, letters, a bunch of other stuff, and maybe sometimes way over on the right-hand side, you'll actually see the bank name. If you click on it and it's really your bank, it is going to have your bank, www.abcbank. If you're on a PC, it'll pop up in the lower left-hand corner down on your toolbar, and it'll show you what the real URL is. But they know you're not going to do that. You're just going to click on it, and they have you. Just so you know that anybody can fall for this, the director of the FBI fell for this. He literally came within one click of losing his entire bank account. When all of a sudden, something just said, wait a minute. They're asking something that my bank wouldn't be asking me. They already know this information. And he admitted that he came really close to being a victim. So if you think you can't be a victim, you can.
Now, and without getting too far off here, this is what really discourages senior citizens from doing online banking.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much fear. But
Well,
yet these are the people that don't get out to do banking easy as other people. So, I mean, it's
Well, absolutely. Just remember, just do your online banking yourself. Don't rely on an email. If there's something really urgent wrong, don't answer. Call.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone, call your bank, or go online. Go to your normal way you would log in online to your online banking and make sure that there is nothing wrong with your account. But they prey on that. The other major scam that's out there right now that is going after, and it's a Ponzi that are going after, is what we call cash gifting. And the thing that's really problem with this is, in this economic times, criminals prey on desperation. They prey on fear. You would think in this economic climate that these type of scams would go away. The opposite is true. They proliferate. There's far more of them now than there has been 2 years ago. And what they do, and how the cash gifting work is this. They tell you that under the IRS code, Title 26, that gifting is legal. Now, up to that point, what they've said is true. Under Title 26 of the IRS code, gifting is legal, which says that you as an individual can give $13,000 per year to anyone you want to give to. If you're married, it's $26,000. But that's where the truth stops and the lie begins. Because what they don't tell you is Title 26 also says that if you give a gift, it must be given with absolutely, and I repeat, absolutely no expectation of a return whatsoever. And if you are getting cash gifting, what they're telling you is that if you gift to 5 people XYZ dollars, then eventually you're going to receive in the mail thousands and thousands of dollars. Well, you just received back for your gift, and they claim that your gift is tax deductible and that any money you receive is tax deductible, and that's not true.
Right.
And that becomes tax evasion. And the IRS takes a real dim view on that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, it's a little more complicated than that.
Sure.
But that's basically how it works in a nutshell.
And you mentioned there's a third top one of these scams against seniors.
Well, the other one that really is, that we have between the cash gifting and the bank email fraud is right now they're inviting you to a lunch meeting or a dinner meeting. And while you're there, they're pitching an investment. And what they're doing is they're telling you that gold is, they prey on the fact that gold is doing what it's doing now, how much it's risen in value. And the thing that you have to understand is that what they're going to offer you is not buy gold. They're going to ask you to buy gold in a mining stock. And of course, this company has just found an undisclosed mine in Latin America somewhere. And it's one of those things where it doesn't exist. The mine doesn't exist. The mining company doesn't exist. And it's all penny stock pump and dump. And that's how they get you on that segment.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, this is a respectful question both ways here. Are people that are less educated the ones that are taken advantage of?
I wish that was true, but unfortunately it's not true. When I say I wish it was true, I mean it from the standpoint that we get the idea that only uneducated people fall for this.
But you just mentioned that.
They target highly net worth individuals, people who are self-reliant. They target people that are highly educated, because really, truly, they play on our egos, and the more education we have, the easier it is to fool us, shockingly and surprisingly. But we found that over the time that we've been researching and investing in this. We've been doing this for 8 years.
Yeah, so there's a whole psychological thing behind this.
Exactly.
Now, other than what you mentioned, Lynn, what other things can seniors do to protect themselves from all this?
Well, the first thing you need to do is to just stop and think. If they're offering you an investment, it sounds too good to be true. The old saying is, it is. Don't fall for it. Check everything out. You have to check out to make sure the person who's offering you an investment is brokered, is licensed to sell securities. You have to make sure that the investment they're offering you is registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So those are some of the, this is one of the first things we tell people to be sure of. And if they're not comfortable, one of the things that we try to do is an outreach. As Eagle, we go out and do free community seminars. I do public speaking. I do engagements. So I can go out and I talk about it. And to further that, I also wrote a book. And I wrote Robbing You with a Keyboard Instead of a Gun, Cybercrime, How They Do It. And basically it goes into a lot of this detail. But it talks about what you do for due diligence and what are red flags. And red flags to us is if they're offering you an investment and you don't have the address of the company, a phone number, a customer service number, you have to know who those people are and that they're real. And unfortunately on the internet, none of that exists. So those are some of the little key things that we tell people to do. Just don't, check with outside advisors. Make sure that what you're getting into is a real investment. And the most critical thing I can tell you is, if you don't understand the investment, don't invest. I don't care who's offering it. You have to be comfortable with what you're investing in, that you understand what you're investing in, because otherwise you're just going to be a victim.
And then, like, I'm thinking, okay, my parents are middle, late 70s. I'm just always telling them, because they'll tell me they get phone calls for things. I go, well, you didn't respond, right? You didn't, you don't give them any information. And we have that responsibility, too, to our seniors that we know.
I would tell children of seniors, make sure you understand what your parents are doing. You don't want to be overbearing with it, but you just want to find out. And a subtle way we ask people to do it is to say, look, you guys are in some investments, and I'm looking for different alternative investments. Let's face it, we know what reality is. We've seen our 401ks become 201ks. We've seen returns on our investments go down to almost nothing. And so when they're saying they're getting 4 and 5% or 10% or whatever number they're getting, you can just always ask the question, I'm looking for a way to increase my earnings. What are you investing in? So maybe I want to get in it. And then it's an easy way for you to find out what they're doing, because let's be honest, most seniors don't want to disclose their personal stuff, even to family members. And secondly is, it gives you a way to make sure that what they're into is really legitimate, and you can warn them that way.
I know now that the insurance industry, especially, they have 1, 2, 3 backup forms too for disclosures for the elderly. There's laws about when you can go see them and visit them, make appointments, how big the font has to be to make sure there's understanding there.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
they're protecting themselves. But then sometimes we just don't protect ourselves.
That's true. It's not only protecting your family members and your elder parents. You got to protect yourself, because you're just as subject to be a victim of one of these type of crimes as anybody else. And the problem is there's so much out there.
So much,
And there's no way we could talk about all the different type of Ponzi scams that are out there that that also affect seniors as well as just everybody.
I want to shift over to the medical identity theft, but before we do, I want you to kind of pick up that book here. We have a still of it, but you just mentioned it so quickly. I want everyone to be able to get it. Robbing You with a Keyboard Instead of a Gun, Cybercrime, How They Do It. That's going to tell us everything.
Well, it won't tell you everything. It tells you everything I could put in that book. If I told you everything, it would be bigger than War and Peace.
Oh, gosh.
You wouldn't be able to pick it up. But it covers the basic fundamentals. And what I do is I use real world experiences. I take actual Ponzi's that were out there and what they said, and then what I do is I break it down and tell you what's the lie. Understand that all these programs have 2 to 3% truth. The rest of it's a lie. The only one that's the exception to that is cash gifting. what they tell you is 98% true. It's the 2% the lie that's what's the killer, and that's what gets you in trouble.
A little leaven leavens the whole lump.
Yes.
Okay. So what is medical identity theft, Lynn?
Well, this is probably one of the least known types of identity theft, and what they're really doing is this one is specifically targeted at seniors. And what they're doing is they're taking your medical information and they're stealing your identity because of your medical information, and they do it in a couple of different ways. One of the biggest things that's happening right now is that you were talking about insurance a minute ago. There are a lot of companies, there are a lot of individuals that claim they are representing a real insurance company, and they come out, and of course we know Medicare covers 80% of the cost and 20% has to be covered under a supplemental plan. So they come out and they present you a supplemental insurance plan. You believe it's a supplemental insurance plan. You think it's a legitimate insurance company. It's a fake company. And what they do is they get all of your medical history. I mean, you give them everything. You give them your doctor's names, their addresses, their phone numbers. You give them all the medications you're taking, all the different type of surgeries you've had. They get they have everything. Your name, address, social security number, everything.
Are these telemarketed, or they go door to door?
No, this is actually door to door.
Oh, goodness.
Sometimes what they'll do is they'll set it up through telemarketing.
Yeah.
But the other side of the coin is that they will, they get in your house and they're sitting down and going to sell you a supplemental insurance policy. And you believe it's a real insurance policy. They'll send you a policy.
And it's a good rate.
Oh yeah, it's a good rate. It'll look like they'll send you a real policy, what you think is a real policy. And all of a sudden you go, and when you find out you've been had is when you go to collect. And then all of a sudden you find out there is no insurance coverage. But in the meantime, they've already stolen your identity. So they use that as a tool which to get all your personal information from. Another thing they will do, and we know they do this because we've seen them do it from a standpoint of admitting it in open court, is the fact that they'll actually go into senior citizen communities and they'll go and take mail out of the mailboxes. And they sort through to see which one's a letter from a doctor or some kind of a medical institution, and they'll take that out, put all the other mail back, take it home, steam it open, copy all the information inside, reseal it, next day go back and put it back in your mailbox so you didn't know you didn't receive it the day before, so you still get it. But then what they do is then they contact that medical company and they get additional information because they pretend to be you. And what will usually happen is you'll get a letter and you'll say, you know, there was a mistake on the last visit. For some reason, there was a small charge that wasn't covered by your insurance, and we need you to send us a check or pay on your credit card $20. Now, it's always a small amount. And like most doctors today, when they send you a bill, they enclose a postpaid return envelope. And it's usually to a P.O. box. We never pay attention to what that return envelope says. We just put the check in the mail or the credit card information to the receipt, put it back into the thing, and send it off. Well, what they've done is they changed the P.O. box so it comes to them. Now, they don't want your check and they don't want your credit card to charge. They're not going to cash your check and they're not going to charge on your credit card. What they're going to do is get all your information so they can sell it. So they get your identity that way. And eventually what will happen about 2 or 3 days later, you'll get it back in the mail and it'll say, oh my gosh, we apologize. There was a mistake in the billing department and it was all covered. Here's your check back, or we did not charge your credit card.
So they're disarming you continually.
They're disarming you. So you won't call your doctor's office and ask questions as to what was that $20 charge about. By the time you think about doing that, you've already got the response back and tells you, well, it was a mistake. We're sorry for the inconvenience. So you think nothing of it. The other thing they're doing is if you get drug prescriptions through the mail, they're actually intercepting the drug prescriptions because it comes in a package with your drugs inside. They open it up, they get the information, they contact them and say, well, I'm going to be out of town the next time this is due, and I'm going to be visiting my uncle, my aunt, whoever, and I'd like for you to send my drugs to that address. And they give an address, and of course it's a fake address. So what they do is now, as soon as they get that, the next shipment, you don't get on time. You give it 2 or 3 days, and then magically you contact them and they say, well, it must have got lost in the mail, so they'll resend it. But they only need that one time because now they have your RX prescription number. They can go out and sell your RX prescription number and get drugs. So there's all kinds of ways that they play off of just that scam alone. Is so many different ways they can do it. And those are kind of like the primary ones, but we've actually had them follow the patient into the doctor's office and pretend to be a family member and making sure that they did show up for their appointment and making sure that they were there and did they mention such and such, and they will, it's amazing what you'll be given when you go walk into a doctor's office and ask.
With all the laws, in spite of that.
In spite of that.
Goodness.
So those are kind of like the primary things that the seniors and how they go about this. And so, and there's other variations of this. Medicare is one of the biggest areas where there's fraud and where medical identity is stolen, more so than any other arena for, especially for senior citizens. So that's why we tell people, you really need to be careful.
So what are the ramifications of this medical identity theft then? They have a prescription so they can get your drugs and sell them.
Oh, absolutely.
How would that affect Medicare, for instance?
Well, because they're billing Medicare under your name. This is where the fraud comes into play. The fact is that, and
so there's fake doctors billing them.
And they can go out and understand, they're going to recreate you.
Yeah.
So what they're going to do is they're going to go out and have surgeries in your name. They're going to get other medications in your name. And all this is piling up in your medical record that you're having these things done because they think it's you. It's not you.
So the senior has to pay attention to that statement that comes that
Absolutely.
shows what Medicare is being billed for.
Exactly.
If you see something questionable, you need to call.
Immediately.
Oh, wow. It's hard for me to even wrap my brain around all those layers of thinking, all the effort that's made. Like you say, they don't want the $20.
No, they want your identity.
They want your identity.
Think about it, when you give them a check, you have usually most people have their names, their addresses, and even their phone numbers on there. Now, you can get that information from a phone book, but this is a convenient way to get it. But what they're really after is your bank routing number and your bank account number. That is gold mine to them, because you can sell that for hundreds and even thousands of dollars to the right people.
Oh, jeez.
And congratulations, you just became an identity theft victim.
Yeah. Wow. So how long does it take to resolve something like this? I mean, how extensive is it, the effort?
The problem with a medical identity theft is this. Usually in identity theft, it takes on an average of about 300 hours to resolve your identity theft, and then you're not really guaranteed that your identity has been recaptured. It can take you anywhere from $2,500 to up to $30,000, $40,000 to recover your identity just from a regular identity theft. The problem with medical identity theft is this. There are so many laws on the books about privacy that it makes it extremely difficult for you to even get access to your own medical records because of the privacy laws that are in place. So it compounds the problem. So what you're looking at is you could be 5 years, 6 years, even 7 years out trying to just get your records cleaned up and cleared that you are you and not somebody else.
In the meantime, you don't have the coverage, and are you able to be seen by a doctor? Things
well,
like
yeah,
that?
you can still be seen. It's just the problem is that they've destroyed your credit in the process.
Okay.
Now you've got Medicare. You have to understand now Medicare is investigating you.
Yeah.
Maybe you're part of the fraud. So it adds another layer to it. But the real problem with medical identity is that it takes forever to be able to get to your access because of the privacy laws that are in place. And they're there for a purpose, but it defeats the purpose when you become a victim. It's amazing what we tell people to do, just to make it easy for you. We tell people every quarter, contact your doctor and check to see what he has, get your medical records and keep them up to date. You're just making sure and confirm it. Get all the billings that you've done for your pharmacies, or wherever you get, whether it's you get it through the mail or you get it at your local pharmacy, have them give you a record of all the pharmacies that all the records of your medications and prescriptions you filled during that quarter period of time. Check it religiously. Make sure there's nothing on there that's suspicious. Because if they've got your RX, they can go to another prescription and another pharmacy and get that prescription filled. Because they're going to show an ID that says you're you, but they're not you. But they have all your other pertinent information. So you want to keep on top of this. It's not something you can just, you shouldn't just say, well, a lot of times people say, well, we should do it once a year. The way this thing is proliferating right now, we're telling people to do it every quarter. And you're going to be on top of it. If you're on it every quarter, it's so much easier and cuts the timeline down that it's going to take you to recover it because you caught it early. The longer you go, the longer it takes to clean it up.
So you're recommending being proactive then?
Oh, absolutely. You have to be proactive. You have to be no more trusting. We tell people in our seminars, we're too trusting. We trust first and verify second. And what we have to learn to do is verify first, then trust. And especially in seniors, we're trusting people that we were taught to trust our whole life. And unfortunately, those are the people that are now scamming us and stealing from us. And these are people we were taught to respect and to trust. And these are attorneys, CPAs, and I hate to say this, but pastors. We've had rabbis that are all running these scams against their own congregation or their own synagogue. And this is the thing that's really been shocking, that we have seen the trend that's happened in the last year. And so we just tell people, stop trusting first. Verify first, then you trust. And if we start doing that, we can stop a lot of this.
Is there anything else that you can recommend for seniors regarding the medical identity theft to protect themselves?
Well, basically, just make sure you follow up. If you have a major surgery, make sure that you have all your medical records and make sure that you check and you get statements through the mail from Medicare. Go over those with a fine-tooth comb. Don't just glance at it and say, well, yeah, it looks right. Literally take the time to sit down and evaluate and see what's on there. Because as I said, they've created you in another, they could be in another state creating you. And make sure that you're not showing up surgeries that you had in some other state that you've never been in. And it will show up there because it's your record.
So family members, we have to help our senior parents,
We do.
and grandparents, or whomever, because that could seem pretty burdensome for a senior citizen to have to do
It is,
this
and that's
quarterly.
why we want that's why we ask for the family members to get involved, whether it's their children or if it's even in some cases even some of the younger grandkids that are college age that understands the computer and things like that, to have them sit down and work with them.
So we have a couple minutes here, Lynn, and I know there's a lot more things you could talk about. What advice could you give our audience in closing?
Well, in closing, I just want to tell everybody this. You have to be more alert today than you ever have had to be alert in your lifetime. These guys are out there, and ladies, I don't want to just imply this because we've had women who are running these Ponzi's as well. You have to check everything out. You can't, like I said, I keep repeating this, but it's so important because we are, as just human beings, we trust first, and we've got to get that word out of our vocabulary to trust first. We're not saying don't trust, we're just saying verify first. But check everything. As I said, if you don't understand an investment, you need to make sure you understand it or don't get in it. Do your due diligence. Check out the companies. Make sure they're properly licensed, they're properly registered. Make sure the person offering the security is properly licensed and registered. It is a requirement that they be so. And so that's one of the reasons why we do what we do, is we provide a website where they can go and find that information.
And how often and where do you have your seminars? How do you encourage people to attend? I mean,
well, basically, if someone's interested in having us do a free community seminar, they just contact us. Or if they need me to come and speak at a trade group or a club or association, whatever, church group, they just contact me and we'll set up a time and date to do it. I've done free community seminars at Saddleback Church through their financial services ministry, and to educate and warn people. We've got other major churches that we're going to and talking about working with. And fortunately, I now have Bill Overtomb, who is the chief prosecutor for the DA's office here in Orange County. He's now joined with me to go out and do these community seminars so we can especially talk to seniors. And so those are the type of things they can do. So all they got to do is just contact me, and we'll be willing to do whatever they want to do.
and what has the response been in attendance over the last couple of years?
It's been very good. In fact, it's growing as what's happening on the internet and of course this new area of the different type of scams that are out there, and they change every day. We're seeing more and more people, and they're getting more of it in their email. They're hearing more and more about it in the press. And of course, Bernie Madoff did a big favor for us by making the word Ponzi a common household name.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here with us. We
Thank you
enjoyed
so much
that.
for having me.
And thank you for joining us this morning on Joy in Our Town.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.